Let me think about this for a moment. I think the most important thing about learning in high school, learning history in high school, about this whole, like learning who you are, is learning why you hate.
That prejudices resulted in the filtering out of the interesting part of the history, because people don't want you to know it didn't fit with a certain agenda. And when you get more deeply involved in the history, you'll find the interesting stuff, and it's like, I never learned this before.
The Civil War started because the South got tired of the North telling them how to run things.
What I remember the Civil War being about was slavery.
I was taught that the war was about slavery.
It's just like some people take it a little too serious, like, oh, it's about slavery. Like, who cares? Like, there's slaveries in Egypt.
What's your name?
My name is Skylar Mackey.
My name is Katie Ryle.
My name is Sharon Sang.
My name is Kyle Kalish.
My name's Jonathan Andrew Bennett Ray.
Where are you from?
From Victor, New York, but I reside in Buffalo currently.
I grew up about 45 minutes outside of Milwaukee.
I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, and I was raised in Atlanta.
I'm from Burlington, North Carolina. It used to be like a small southern town up until like Best Buy and Chili's and all of them started rolling in.
I was born in Savannah, but when I was very young, we moved away because my father was in the Air Force. So we traveled, lived in many places, and in the late 60s, my father went to Vietnam, and while he was in Vietnam, we came back to Savannah.
America has long been called the Great Melting Pot. In our 235 years as a sovereign nation, we have collected millions of the world's tired, poor, and huddled masses, and in the same time fought in over 25 wars. That is not including military disputes. However, only one can deserve the name the war that made America. The American Civil War split the country in two, a wound that has never been fully healed. Many people claim that the war is still being fought. Everyone has their opinion on the war, but how much does it have to do with our education, and how is it affected by our upbringing?
Mostly what I remember is from my AP US history class, where we did a lot of this very much, well, more in depth, it being AP US history. And I think I was actually very lucky because my AP US history teacher was very, very good.
And then I've always been very interested in that time of our country's history, and so I've done a lot of reading about the Civil War on my own. So I can't tell you for sure what I learned at school and what I've learned since then.
And I do remember spending a lot of time on the Civil War because his favorite president was Abraham Lincoln.
I was never told anything about it by my family. I only learned about it in school. I probably wouldn't have known it even existed if it not for school.
Over the Civil War, I think it was like 10th grade when I took U.S. history. I know it lasted 5 years. Abraham Lincoln was killed.
Obviously, people take away different things from their educations, probably based on actual interest. But education isn't the only place that the Civil War presents itself. It has fundamentally changed what American society is and what we think of ourselves.
I would say the Civil War is relevant to my family, being that I'm half black and half Dominican. So I grew up with my grandparents who are from Atlanta and South Carolina, so the Civil War as a whole played a big part in their lives because they came up during the time of segregation and they lived in a time after.
I mentioned that my personal family is very liberal. My mother is also a librarian. My two sisters are now teachers. I am a librarian. We grew up very, very liberal and all that sort of stuff. So the Civil War was framed within that.
I guess it affected us because it's what we are today, but nothing like affected us personally, like what happened like 200 years ago or 150 years ago.
And again, there are those more opinionated than others. According to Daughters of the Confederacy writer Mildred Lewis Rutherford, it was the war between the states, for the non-seceding states of the United States made war upon the seceding states of the United States to force them back into the Union. Please call it so and teach it so.
Blowing each other with, I started to say tanks, but with the guns and cannons and things like that blowing each other. It didn't make it very Southern.
It wasn't just about slavery, but, that was all awful and the South was wrong. We were certainly not the aggressors.
But if I was living in the South and I was able to weigh in on the issues, I would probably be on the South side during that time, because whether or not it was good or bad, the whole act of slavery really brought the country forward and helped it develop a lot faster than it would have without it.
What was the condition of the Africans when brought to this country? Savage to the last degree. The Negro race should give thanks daily that they and their children are not today where their ancestors were before they came into bondage.
You guys might want to cover your ears.
And of course we have to ask the question, what are our schools actually teaching us?
Gettysburg was the bloodiest war battle in America history. It was where everybody died. I remember that and Remember the Titans,
Back another Battle of Gettysburg, and why was it famous?
I have no idea.
Which army held the initial advantage, would you say?
Ooh, I don't know. Should I guess?
Do you know what years the Civil War took place?
I want to say 1962 it started, but I don't remember when it finished.
Do you want to guess again?
Do I want to guess again? 1960. I really blew it.
So now we got technology to do all these things. Like, we don't need it anymore. Like, we got tractors. We don't need slaves to pull cotton.
Whether we want it or not, the Civil War lives on. Entire cities, like Savannah and Charleston, are built on the foundation of tourists eager to touch history. Whether it be Sherman's headquarters, Fort Sumter, or some discarded tissue General Lee sneezed into. We asked Philip Majoni, a Savannah walking tour guide, what it's like to earn a living off his knowledge of the past.
Well, the minimum requirements for study is that you have a 100-page book that you study for the tour guide test. And you have to make, I've forgotten whether it was 85, but you have to make a high score. You're not going to pass with a 70 on that test. Looking back with hindsight, I can see lots of ways where that war could have been avoided. It's just that the political power dynamic is the real reason. Some of the other reasons, for example, I was taught that the North fought the war to free the slaves. Well, we know that's not true because the Republicans did not run as abolitionists in 1860. Sometimes opinionated people have the facts, and I have to re-examine what I thought I knew, and I'm willing to do that. I'm always willing to learn something new.
For many Southerners, the war still isn't over. The Confederate flag still flies high above their towns, a symbol of heritage and honor.
Some people take it a little step further and they think if you carry a rebel flag, you're a redneck. You carry a shotgun in your car, and good old boy, as they say. But I don't think it represents that. I think it's just part of our history to me.
However, many see this controversial topic differently.
I realize that it's a bit of a tradition to hold on to it. But it is sort of strange to see it flown right next to the American flag.
And some find it utterly disturbing.
Now that we've moved ahead, it's kind of like you want to let go of those bad memories, like baggage. So let's go ahead and change it to stand for what we believe in now and who we are now.
Whatever your view, it's clear that the split driven through our nation won't mend anytime soon. Though perhaps what's important about the Civil War today is what we each take away from it on our own. Some see history.
To me, it just represents a part of our history.
Some see nothing at all.
I didn't really care because I was living in North Carolina at the time.
And some will forever be affected by the rebel yell.
One of the things I always think about when I see the Confederate flag is the movie A Time to Kill, based on the John Grisham novel, where in the beginning these two white guys, and I think it's in Alabama, it's in Mississippi. It's in Mississippi. These two white guys are about to abduct this little black girl and rape her.
Hey, you good, boy?
And all you see is a truck driving away, and in its back window are 2 Confederate flags. And that movie, like, just seared that image into my memory. So when I think about Confederate flags, that's what I think about. And that's why I'm just so amazed and baffled when I see Confederate flags in the South, is because it just seems strange to me that someone would want to display that.